Good morning. These are your notes over area of triangles and parallelograms. You will copy down what I write on the note paper here onto your copy of it that the sub gave you, that Mrs. Kennedy gave you. And then you will, as soon as you are done, you will let her know that you've copied it all down, and she will give you the assignment page, and you will work on that. And once you finish that up and get it turned in, you'll be done for the day. If you do not finish it, you will need to finish it and turn it in to Mrs. Kennedy tomorrow. All right, we're going to look at some examples together. First, your definition for area of a triangle: the number of squares, 1 by 1 squares, that will fit inside a triangle. And sometimes they have to be cut into little pieces to make them fit, but that's generally the idea. Perimeter of a triangle: if you're asked to find the perimeter, you add up all 3 sides. Now, there's a chance you may have to find a missing side using Pythagorean theorem if it's a right triangle or if you have a right triangle drawn inside, and we'll look at a couple of examples where we do that. So look at the first one. The formula is base times height divided by 2. Sometimes it's written as 1/2 base times height, but base times height divided by 2 I think is easier to work with right now. And the base and the height are going to meet at the right angle. So you need to look for that right angle in each figure, because all bases and heights meet at a right angle. So when I'm looking at the first one, and I want you to write down these steps, you're going to write the formula. When we test over this, I will have a place for you to write the formula. And then you'll show me what you plug in, and then you'll get an answer. And you will get credit for each one of those, and that's free points for looking a formula up, writing it down. So the formula is base times height divided by 2. And then you plug in, so this is formula, and this will be the plug in. So area equals, the base is 6, the height is 4, and then over 2. And then you will get your calculator if you need to, and you will give me an answer. 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So we're going to call this step simplify your answer. And when you are finding area, I'm just going to show you this. It's 6 inches times 4 inches divided by 2. 2 doesn't have a unit on it because it's a number in the formula. So you're getting inches times inches, which is going to give you square inches. So the answer to the first one for the area is 12 square inches. In the second one, if you have a right triangle, the right angle you see is the right angle you're looking for. That tells you where your base and height are. So the base is going to be 10 and the height's going to be 15. So we'll do area equals base times height divided by 2. Plug in 10 times 15 divided by 2. And then we'll go to the calculator on this one so you can see an example of that. Go to calculate. I'm going to clear this off real quick. And then you're going to go control divide. And we're doing 10 times 15 divided by 2. And we get 75. So I'll move this aside. 75, that's feet times feet. So that'll be another way you can write it as square feet, SQ feet. But you can also write it as feet with a squared on it, and I'll do the next one that way. When you have an obtuse triangle, there will be 2 altitudes that are drawn outside the triangle. Here is the altitude right here, and it is perpendicular. It doesn't intersect the base, but it intersects the line that contains the base. So on this, 5 is your base, because the base has to be a side of the triangle of whatever figure you're finding the area of. The base has to be a side of that figure. So your height is going to be 8. So you do area equals base times height divided by 2. Plug in 5 times 8 divided by 2. And then put that into your calculator, and you will get 5 times 8 is 40 divided by 2 is 20. And all right, and then we get, on this one, I'm going to write it this way. It's centimeters squared. That does not mean the 20 is going to be squared. That means that the units are square centimeters, so don't try to put that 2 on the 20. If you do, if you leave the centimeters off and you just put a squared out here, I'm going to think you're telling me the answer is 20 squared, which is incorrect. It means there are 20 squares that will fit inside this triangle. All right, let's look at one like this. Do not fall into the trap of trying to use the numbers they give you just because they're there. You need to find the base and height. Here's your right angle. So 20 is your base or your height, I'll call it base, but the height is over here. So you're going to have to find that. Since it's a right triangle, you're going to need to do 20 squared plus, I'll call this the a squared, is equal to 25 squared. So if you type into your calculator 20 squared, you're going to get 400 plus a squared equals 625. And then subtract 400 from both sides, and you get a squared equals 225. All right, and then square root, and a is 15 is what I meant to write. All right, so that means this is 15. So now we go to our area equals base times height divided by 2. The base, and it really doesn't matter which one you use as base, which one you use as height, because it'll give you the same answer. But I'm going to call the 20 the base, and the 15 is the height, and divide by 2. So we'll put that in the calculator. Control divide. 20, and if you want to do parentheses, you can. That'll work. And you can put parentheses around the 20 as well if you want. And then divided by 2. And I get 150. Alright, so the unit was feet, so I know it's going to be feet squared. The unit for area will always be units squared. Alright, I am seeing an error on my paper, so I will change inches here to centimeters. We got to have those in the same unit, so we're just going to fix it that way. I will fix it on your paper already, so it'll be the same. Now this one you have to watch out for, because to find the base, you see the right angle, so it's this line is your base, and your height has to be right here because it is perpendicular to that. So to find the base, I have to add the 4 and the 2 and get 6. And the height is going to be 4 because you have congruent angles here, which makes this top right triangle a 45, 45, 90. And in a 45, 45, 90, the legs are congruent, so if this is 4, this is 4. And then once we figure that out, we can say area equals base times height over 2. Plug in, area equals 6, that's the base, 6, and then 4 is the height, divided by 2. And 6 times 4 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. And we get centimeters squared. Okay, if you will turn over on the back, let me make sure that's there. And as you're watching this video, feel free to pause it as you need to so you can get everything copied down. Okay, on the back, we're going to talk about rectangles, parallelogram. We're going to talk about parallelograms, and that includes rectangles and that includes squares, so all the formulas for these will be the same. And as long as you keep the base and height meeting at a right angle in your head, it's going to be fine. The area formula for a parallelogram is base times height, but that's also sometimes called length times width. And so let's look at this first example. I call it base times height more than anything, but length times width sometimes. So on this first one, if you find the right angle, here's your height and your base. But again, you're going to have to add the two numbers together to get your base. So the base is going to be 3.2 plus, let's see, 4.9, and that's 8.1. So the base is 8.1. The height is 4.5. The 6.2 over here is just to throw you off, but it can't be the height because it's not a right angle here. So you're looking for the right angle, and the base and the height meet at a right angle. And yes, there's a right angle up here, and this base up here is the same as this one, so it would be the same if you used it. So now we're going to say 8.1 times the height of 4.5. So I'll take my calculator and do, I've already got the 8.1 on there, so I'm just going to hit times 4.5. And I get 36.45. And because this is area, we're going to call that meters squared or square meters. Speaking of squares, the next one is a square, but it is also a parallelogram. Now, I have no problem if you use A equals side squared for the formula for this, because that is an acceptable formula for square. But on the formula chart, it's only going to have the formula for area of a parallelogram. So you're going to have to use that formula or memorize the one you want to use. So this is base times height. The base is 7. The height is 7. So I get 49 inches squared. Look for the right angle. The base and the height meet at a right angle. Of course, all sides are 7 in the square, so I don't think you'll make a mistake on that. All right, here we have another one where you might be tempted to say, I'm going to do 7 times 24, but that would be incorrect because 24 is not the height. You're going to have to find, or the base. You can call 7 the height. This is the base right here you're looking for. And if you don't want to use this triangle up here to get that, you have 7 here. So you could use this as your base and the height of 7 here. So what we have to do is find the missing side, and because we have a half of a rectangle as a right triangle, we will use Pythagorean theorem. Now, I have no problem with you using triples, and the two that I've given you on these set of notes, you've been able to use triples if you know them. So this is a no, on this one you can't. I almost fooled myself. This one, the 24 is in the wrong spot, so be careful of that as well. If you put a 25 here, that won't work because that would make the hypotenuse smaller than the leg. So we're going to get a decimal for this. So we're going to say 7 squared plus b squared equals 24 squared. 7 squared is 49 plus b squared equals 24 squared is one you may not be familiar with, so you'll probably have to put it in the calculator and get 576. Then we're going to subtract 49 and we get 527. And then you're going to take the square root of both sides. Now, the square root of 527 is not going to come out to be a really nice number. It's going to be a decimal. So you get b equals 22.956. And I'm okay with you stopping at 2 or 3 decimal places there just to show me what you got. But when you plug this in, you need to use the decimal on your calculator, and I'll show you what I mean. The area formula is going to be base times height. And that's going to be 22.956 times a height of 7. Well, I don't want you typing in 22.956 for 2 reasons. You could type it in wrong, or you might use the rounded answer and get a not as accurate answer as I want. So the easy way to do this is you've got the 22.956 on your calculator. All you need to do is multiply by 7. So do times 7 and enter, and you get the answer. And I'm going to do this to 2 decimal places. So 160.69 with the 5 here, the 69 will round up to a 70. So you're going to write your answer as 160.70. If you leave the 0 off, that's fine. It doesn't have to be there to maintain accuracy. And then this is going to be feet squared. Okay, and this last one is about the easiest possible I could give you. For a rectangle, I give you the base, I give you the height. It's kind of like a square. So it's area equals base times height. Plug in 16 times 10. So that's 160. On this one, they did not give any units, so I'm not going to require that you put units down. However, you might find it beneficial to always put units so that you don't forget when you need to. So if you want to, you can put units, just a U for units, and squared there. Okay, so you are now done with your notes. You may raise your hand and show Mrs. Kennedy your notes that you copied down. And then once she sees that you have all of these worked out on your paper, including all of the work, then she's going to give you the assignment, and I want you to do it the same way. I want you to write area formula, A equals whatever the formula is. I want you to write what you plugged in for the variables, what you plugged in for the base and the height, and then I want you to write the answer in simplified form with the correct units. That's what it's going to take to get full credit when we test over this. All right, thank you very much. If you have trouble, feel free to ask another student for help once everyone is working on it, because you are going to help each other out this week. Thanks, and I will be back tomorrow with some more notes over more area. All right, bye-bye.